Have you ever had a Secret Santa? It's supposed to be a fun and playful experience that you can take part with friends or work colleagues, buy each other funny, thoughtful or stupid gifts, but it's all just part of the festive fun around the holidays. Well, not in the experience I had. It's an experience that I still think about to this day, and something that has tainted Christmas for me ever since. Christmas 2017, as always, I was in the holiday spirit. Christmas was one of my favourite times of the year. I loved the season, the decorations, the atmosphere, and spending time doing festive activities with friends and family. It was Christmas Eve, and I was with my now husband as we were doing our last-minute shopping and buying the remaining things we needed. We were usually pretty organised and got everything in advance, but we just had a few things left to get. After we had finished a chaotic shopping trip, we were finally on our way home where we could relax together and spend the night in, having a cozy Christmas Eve before the big day and the hectic schedule of visiting his family and my family. As we settled in, we decided to put in a pizza, nice and simple, and have a few drinks to get festive. We thought we would have a few Baileys on the rocks. As we had our drinks, we got cozy and watched a movie on TV, The Grinch, which happened to be one of my favourites. After a nice relaxing night and one too many Baileys, we headed to bed around 11:30 to get some sleep for the next day. Not before my partner joked about leaving some milk and cookies out for Santa, which he actually did, which put a smile on my face. I looked out the window and could see the houses on the street were still buzzing with activity, as it would be over the next week or so with people visiting relatives and families, hosting parties and get-togethers. With a smile on my face and feeling content, I shut the curtains and made sure the front door was locked before heading to bed. As the night passed, I woke up, unable to sleep. I was a light sleeper and felt like I had heard something that caused me to wake. Rolling over, I looked at the time and saw it was 3 in the morning. Listening out, I couldn't hear anything and thought I'd obviously woke myself up. As I rolled over trying to fall back to sleep, it was then I heard a thud downstairs, like something had fell or been knocked. As I sat up, I listened, knowing I definitely heard something. Maybe someone had broken in. I began to worry. But as I listened, my hearing was again met with silence. I turned to wake my partner, telling him that I'd heard something downstairs. As I whispered to him, he wasn't impressed being woken up. "Maybe it's Santa, go back to sleep," he tiredly groaned as a joke. But obviously, that was not real, and I knew I'd heard something, so I nudged him again. He finally woke, sitting up asking what the problem was. I told him I heard a noise like a thud or knock from downstairs. Looking back at me, I think he could see the concern in my face, as he got up and told me not to worry, and he would go and check it out. Heading to the door, he stepped into the hallway to investigate. I sat there waiting for a response when I heard him call up to me that everything was okay, and there was nothing or no one down there. Hearing him make his way back upstairs, he'd checked the front door and back door, and was now checking the rooms upstairs. After a sweep round, he jumped back into bed as he smiled at me, saying whatever I heard was nothing, and everything was okay, that I may have been dreaming and that's what woke me up. Feeling slightly relieved and relaxed, knowing no one was in the house, I found myself able to thankfully fall back to sleep. The next morning arrived and it was finally Christmas Day. I woke my partner up as I wanted us to go down together to open the presents we had gotten each other. He was soon up and ready as we made our way down to the living room. As we entered, we sat and began to dish out a few of the presents before my partner stopped, staring behind me. I turned to see what he was looking at. I didn't notice it at first, until he said it cheekily. "You got a bit hungry. Did you have some of Santa's milk and cookies?" I looked over and noticed there was some half-eaten cookies and some spilled milk from the stuff he had left out as a joke. I turned back to him as I laughed, saying I didn't do that and it was cute he was acting as if Santa had been. But the smile on his face dropped. He said he didn't do it either. I told him to stop fucking with me as I chuckled, but he didn't laugh. He didn't smile. In fact, a confused look filled his eyes as he stood up. He walked past me over to it, saying he honestly didn't do it, and if I didn't, and he didn't, then who had ate some of the cookies and milk? It was then he grabbed something from the table, a present with a tag on it. He turned looking at me as he said it was addressed to me. Surprised and still not quite knowing what was going on, I took it from him, Looking at it, it was a light square box. Wrapped up the label read, "To Emily, love your Secret Santa." Confused, I opened the present, which was as light as a feather. It was a box. As I pulled the lid off looking inside, I froze. I immediately felt physically sick as my partner asked what was wrong. The contents inside the box were pictures of me. As I flicked through them, I could feel the fear crippling me as I began to shake. Pictures of me out alone, pictures of me with friends at work, pictures of me taken through the window of me naked, changing at home. Pictures from as recent as the day before, Christmas Eve, of me and my partner shopping. I dropped the box as fear consumed me. Someone had been watching me, someone had been stalking me. And the haunting thing is, they had clearly been in the house that night to put that present there, so the noise I thought I'd heard was real. A call to the police was made to report what had happened and what was found. As we waited, my partner tried to comfort me, but as you can imagine, our minds were racing with the thoughts of who this was. I had no idea. The scariest thing is to me, I don't know who it could have been watching me. As far as I was aware, I had no jealous ex. From what I could tell, no weird or obsessive co-workers. When the police arrived, it was found the downstairs restroom window was open, and that was most probably the route of entry. I had no cameras on my house at the time, so couldn't even gather any information or evidence. The police took our details, the box of pictures, and the handwritten tag. As you can imagine, I wasn't in the Christmas spirit after that. Far from it. Nothing was ever found, or no suspect apprehended. To this day, I still have no idea who it was watching me. It makes me look at everyone differently. Even from friends and people you think you know, I look at everyone differently now. And it has tainted Christmas for me ever since. Luckily, I have a supportive husband and family, and I'm slowly getting past it, but it's always there in the back of my mind. As the scariest thing is, I think, are they still watching me?
It was in mid-December 2019. My girlfriend and I decided to do something different that Christmas. We planned to treat ourselves to a long weekend away just before Christmas Day itself. That way, we'd be back in time to see family. We got ourselves a remote cabin to get fully into the festive spirit. We settled on a remote Airbnb site in Colorado, which was around an 8-hour drive from where we lived. The journey itself wasn't that bad. We set out early morning so we could reach our destination by late afternoon, which would give us the evening there. Upon arrival, we met up with the owner, an older gentleman who owned the site. He handed us the keys and explained the location of our cabin. It was a little further out, as requested, so we could feel secluded. The owner mentioned it was pretty quiet at this point, so the cabins around us were pretty much empty anyway. With our location now known, we headed off to our cabin. As we parked up, it was cool to see, as neither me nor my girlfriend had stayed at a cabin in the winter before. We unpacked our stuff and took in the beautiful scenes that surrounded us. Snow was everywhere. Although cold, we loved it. It was getting on, and we had not ate yet. So now settled, we took a drive back into the nearest town to get some food. Upon arriving back at our cabin, we were both exhausted from the day, and seems I'd done the majority of the driving. I was ready to chill out. We got ourselves comfy and decided to have an early night. It was just past 1:30 a.m. I remember distinctly, as that was when my girlfriend woke me up explaining that she could hear a sound in our cabin. Adjusting to my surroundings and trying to wake up, I listened out for what she was talking about. As I listened in silence, I soon began to hear what sounded like a light tapping, borderline knocking, from inside the cabin. I couldn't quite make out what it was, but my girlfriend, now creeped out by it, wanted to know the source. In all honesty, I too wanted to know. I got up, opened the bedroom door, and slowly walked out into the hallway, listening for the source. As I scanned around the downstairs cabin, I could faintly hear the knocking, and it sounded like It was coming from the window next to the door. I turned on the light in the hallway as I was now concerned at what the sound was. But as I turned on the light and walked down and over to the window, the sound had stopped. By the time I had gotten to the window, I couldn't hear anything anymore. I peeled back the blind and looked out into only darkness. I couldn't see or hear anything. It was then I noticed just by the window there was a branch hanging down from a tree at the side of the cabin. Its end hung right next to the glass. I concluded that must have been the tapping on the window from the motion of blowing in the wind. Other than that, my mind at ease, I headed back upstairs to tell my girlfriend the source of the sound and that there was nothing to be concerned about. The following morning, we were up at a reasonable time, ready to head into town for some festive activities that we had planned. It was just as we were leaving, and I opened the front door. I noticed it. There were footprints in the snow, just outside our cabin. As I noticed them, I realized that they traveled from around the side of the cabin, the side where we had heard the tapping on the window in the middle of the night. I looked around, trying to see if there was anyone around, but we were the only two, apart from the other cabin further in the distance, but that was empty, so the footprints were a mystery to me. I assumed there was a reasonable explanation for them. Maybe the owner checked on the cabins in the morning. I played it off, as I didn't want to get my girlfriend worrying, but she was less convinced than I was. After her eventually agreeing with me that there was nothing to be bothered by, we had soon forgotten the whole thing, as we were enjoying the activities that we had booked. It was late in the evening. We'd been out all day. Before heading back to the cabin, we got some food and stopped at a store and bought some drinks to take back with us. It was near dark now, as the sun had set. We pulled back up at the cabin, and as we headed inside, I could see in the distance a dim light or glow from the cabin up the hill. That cabin was vacant, I thought. Someone new must have arrived today. We weren't the only ones in the area now. Anyway, we continued into the cabin to settle in for the night. After having a few drinks and enjoying the rest of our evening, we were settled in bed. Again, it was in the early hours. I looked at my phone and it read 3 a.m. This time, I must have been in a light sleep as I woke before my girlfriend. And what woke me was the strange sound coming from inside the cabin. This time, it was no light tapping or knocking. This was the unmistakable sound of movement coming from inside. I sat up, listening, trying to get my bearings, but as I listened out for the sound, I again fell upon silence. Just as I was getting up, my girlfriend woke and asked what I was doing. I told her not to worry, and that I had just heard a slight noise and I was going to see what it was. I didn't want to lie. She sat up, and I know saying this only concerned her. I made my way into the hallway and looked around the cabin, and as I did, instantly, my heart began to race. As I looked down into the living area, I could see the front door was open. Even though the cold air brushed past me, it was the sight of the door wide open that sent chills down my spine. Not only that, but as I looked closer, there were wet, snowy footprints heading right into the cabin. Someone had been inside, or worse, still was. I immediately headed back into the room, quietly telling my girlfriend to be quiet and put on her shoes, grab her phone, and follow me to the front door, and that I thought somebody was in our cabin. The color drained from her skin as I told her, but she was quick to do as I said and grabbed her phone. We walked into the hallway and the silence was deafening. I told my girlfriend to wait by the front door whilst I checked the cabin. My fists clenched, I checked in the kitchen, my palms becoming sweaty as I felt the adrenaline rush through me. But there was no one. The living area was empty. I made my way towards the bathroom as I slowly pushed the door open, gritting my teeth. As it creaked, I slowly took one step in, looking around. As I was about to fully enter, I froze to the spot. my eyes widening as I noticed. In the reflection of the bathroom mirror was a huge, dark figure hiding behind the shower curtain. This figure was near 6'6" tall and standing behind the curtain as if hiding and waiting for me to pull it back. Seeing the sheer size and the fact that they were hiding and had broken in, I trusted my better judgment and ran as fast as I could towards the front door, telling my girlfriend to get into the car. As we did, I couldn't help looking back, expecting somebody to be chasing me. Completely freaked, we drove away from our cabin and notifying the owner immediately, who was at first questioning the time that we were ringing him. After explaining the terrifying ordeal, the owner agreed to come and check it out with a local officer. We drove back to the cabin to meet with the owner and the officer. What they found still creeps me out. Upon inspection of our cabin, it was empty. They found our belongings we left had been ransacked and certain items stolen. But the most disgusting and fucked up thing was, when they checked the bathroom, where I saw the figure of the person hiding, they found human feces smeared across the walls and mirror. It was found, upon inspection of the other cabin, where I'd seen the light on earlier that night, that it had been broken into and trashed. Someone had been squatting in there for what looked like days. The same person was suspected to have broken into our cabin when they knew we had occupied it. Whoever that person was clearly unstable, not only to rob us, but to smear their own feces across the wall is crazy. I'm just glad I never pulled that curtain back, as who knows what I would have been met with, or what they would have done. It's safe to say we didn't stay another night and asked the owner to issue us a refund. That night was a moment that honestly scared me, and I don't plan on staying in any secluded cabins anytime soon. I don't know who was behind that curtain, and honestly, I don't want to know. No matter what time of the year it is, there's always freaks out there, so always be careful.
Welcome back to Horror Motives, everyone. Thanks for listening to these terrifying Christmas horror stories. If you enjoyed this festive video, like, comment and share. It really helps us out and we really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe and become a part of the Horror Motives community. We hope you have enjoyed all the terrifying stories along the way this year, and we can't wait to bring you more horrifying content and show you what we have in store for the future. Happy holidays, and have a chilling Christmas, everyone. And above all, remember, fear lies within. Merry Christmas.